Well, welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and this one is a roundup of everything that's happening in the garage. There's been so much going on in the background, and several of you have messaged me saying, why is your Project 8 suddenly turned red when it always used to be that Merlin purple, that Audi colour? Well, we're going to come back to the Project 8 in a moment, but basically I've had a number of cars in for service, one down, the two Project 7, Project 8 with Tom Lemphal, and Tom says, why don't you try my P8 and see how different it is? And there's a story coming up on why this is here and my Project 8 is not in the garage. But I just want to run through some of the other cars in here and what we've been up to over the last few months, because it's been busy. I'm just going to kick off first with the Testarossa, because we did that trip to Scotland in it. But before we went, I had to do a little bit of work on it, and I was looking at the service. All the cars in here have a file of what's going on, and yeah, we had to put this new radiator where we actually recalled the radiator in it, and doing that, and obviously doing the coolant, redoing the coolant and things. It's quite a lot of labour because it's right in the wing there to strip out. And that was £1,629 to get all that work done before we went off to Scotland. But since then, turnkey, been fantastic. The other car that had a service, and this was sort of planned, was my Lotus Elan. I have owned this car since '93, and I just can't get my head around that I've had it for over 30 years. But that is the case. And I had a trip planned in this. And if you watch Harry's Garage regularly, you'll notice that we took a trip to the Lake District and did Hard Knot Pass, and I had planned to do that in this Elan. And then Morgan came along with that +4, and I said, well, which one should I use? And then suddenly the Elan ruled itself out, because I had this service done, classic sports cars. They're based Stourport 7, and it had a hot start issue when it was always on the button. It was utterly trustworthy, and I couldn't quite understand what was happening there. And also they got rubber donuts in the back of an Elan in the drive shafts to protect the diff and the drivetrain, and they were getting weak. They'd cracked, and when they let go, it's not good news. So I wanted them to look at that. During the time it was there, they said, we think your radiator has got a slight leak on it. So the radiator on this was recalled as well. And the reason for the suspension was it was actually getting too much droop. So the wheels were going too far down. That was stressing out the donuts. So we actually put new dampers in the back that are the right length. I'm not sure what was happening there, but it ended up as quite an expensive service in all, £2,346 for all the work we did. Had front brake pads as well. I mean, I look on it, the last time it had a really big service was in 2017 at Paul Matty. I just check over it. It's probably done about 3,000 miles, 3,500 miles since then. So it doesn't do huge mileage, but it missed the big trip to the Lake District, which is a bit sad. And if you're wondering what's normally in this space, it's the Porsche 930S. And that has got a time to come as well, because I've got quite a number of things to do. Basically, I'm going to the Foro Concorso, which is a concorso that happens on Lake Como, the same weekend as a famous concorso that happens at Villa d'Este, just down the road. I'm just intrigued with these two enormous events happening on Lake Como. Villa d'Este is exceptional. I've been to it a couple of times. But this one is more Italian, it's more sporting. Foro Concorso has a sort of F1 cars there, there's quite a lot of sporting rally cars there. It's very Italian, that's all I know at the moment. And I'm going to take the Porsche 930S. But on the way there, I'm going to Sonderwunsch, I'm going to Porsche Factory, and I'm also going to Friesland Motorsport, and I'm also going to call in on Roof. And that's quite a lot of miles. And when we get back, it's straight on the lawn at the London Concours event, because it's entered in a Young Timer Concours event there this year, which is the beginning of June. All that means that I've got a big road trip to do in it. And last time I took it on a road trip, the 930S, went to Spain, it came back with some monster stone chips. It's those, particularly the rear arches, and where that intake is on the rear arch, it seems very prone to getting stone chipped. So I've had it repaired, all repainted, and I thought, do you know what? I don't normally do PPF, I'll have PPF on it. And then I discovered, because it's a Sonderwunsch car, it has unique bodywork, and a lot of people just rely on patterns, and they can get the PPF to put on, but there is no patterns on the Sonderwunsch Porsche 930S. So I rang Topaz, because they are specialists in this game, very well known, and they will actually do it from scratch. Whatever car you take to them, they can do PPF on it, and they measure it precisely, and they create the pattern so they can do it. So the 930S currently is down at Topaz, and we get it at the end of the week, and then it's all ready for its trip to Italy. And I'm intrigued. I've learnt so much about PPF, stuff I didn't know, and I have to say I'm really impressed. And the cars they were doing when we dropped it off in London was just extraordinary. So yeah, that's what's happening there. But that's not the only car that's been busy doing stuff. The other one, the Range Rover. You know, I've got the Classic as well, and we have a new Range Rover on lease, and I sort of alternate, but I've had this since 2016, and I'm a farmer. I really like this model. Obviously, I did that video with Jeremy Clarkson, he likes it as well. And the last few MOTs, there's just been noted advisories on the MOT, on the suspension stuff. And I thought, oh, I've had enough of this. I'm going to keep this car, so I want to do a proper service on it. So it has just come back from Newbury 4x4 Centre, and we did quite a lot of work on it. It's just engine service and things, new struts on the bonnet. But underneath, rear knuckle joints due to excessive play, we replaced those, and the front control arms, replacements of those upper and lower, and also rear brake lines as well, the flexible lines at the back, there was rust on those as well. The other bit I have had done is a repair on this centre section. If you know 322s, they have a rust issue all hiding under this plastic. There's a jacking point under here, and it's all hidden away and very exposed to sort of salt spray and things. And I was worried that mine were going too, and whether I needed body work done. So they took all that off. Fortunately, mine weren't too far gone, and they neutralised any sort of surface rust there was, and it's all been put back. So I had quite a lot of work done on it. Oh, the other thing was the boot struts. There's two struts holding it down, and one had snapped. They replaced those. All told, that came to £2,800. So it's had a proper going over, but I'm sure it'll do many years of service from now. The other thing that I'm doing with the Range Rover is tomorrow I'm up north to go and meet up with Lawrence Whitaker, who is boss of Warranty Wise, and you might have noticed they are a new sponsor on the channel, for which I'm very grateful, because he has lots of warranties on the Range Rovers, 322s, 405s, Evokes, Velars, Range Rover Sports, so much data. And I asked him which is the most reliable Range Rover of all and the least reliable Range Rover. And his team have all gone through all the data, and tomorrow we're going to discuss it. So lots to discuss on that. But anyway, now I'm going to head over the other side of the garage because there's some other cars over there I want to talk about. Turning to Project 7 service. So Project 7 and 8 get service every year, and I thought it was time really to move away from the sort of Jaguar dealers. We all know what's happening to Jaguar. They hardly see any of these cars, and Tom Lempfel does a lot of Jaguar servicing. He obviously did the engine on the V12 Coupe, but he's doing a lot of these more modern Jaguars and looks after a number of P7s. So I thought, well, it's time to change. It's 10 years old, let's take it there and do the service. He went in had a service, absolutely straightforward, nothing at all wrong, just oil and filters, etc. on that. And he said, why don't you take the Project8 when I dropped it off and you compare it to your Project8? And his is all in track mode, as you can see here. And I had a drive home in it, and I was amazed because it rode better than mine. And I've been suspicious of the ride on mine, not sure what was going on because it was much harder. And then I'd mentioned this to Tom when I got home. He says, well, I took your car out and there's something wrong with your rear suspension because it's like locked up. He's got these vicious speed bumps on the approach to where his unit is. And you take my Project8 over there and it has no sort of, it's like locked solid at the rear. Front's all right, but the rear's not right. The other thing with my Project8 he discovered was there's an oil seal gone on the front diff. And it needed new front brake pads, which I sort of knew about. Long story short, I have a warranty on the car, and so I didn't realise Tom Lemphall it's no problem having a Jaguar warranty. He's registered with Jaguar, so he can do warranty work on all new and second-hand Jaguars. So he's trying to see what he can get through warranty and what he can't. So what we are going to do now is actually drive Tom's Project8 back down to his workshop, and there I'm promised my Project8 is on a lift, rear suspension out, rear dampers out, and we're going to swap the rear dampers for the rear dampers on Tom's Project8 and see if that really is the problem. Most people use like the Nürburgring to test cars, and you're using
speed bumps.
Speed bumps.
Yeah, speed bumps are perfect.
Occasion.
Oh. I've got aggressive speed bumps, so I might as well use them.
They're not good, are they?
So, the trouble is the dampers cost a couple of quid. And
I think it's nearer 3,000 a corner.
Yes, I think they were about £3 each. Yeah, so I'm very reluctant to. Just change them.
Right.
You know? And if you look in the top, they've got an electrical connector, right? So these are electrically adjustable. Okay, so they will.
See from there.
Yeah, but they are electronic dampers.
You'll see the
electrical connectors
up there, isn't it?
Up there,
hiding up there.
Up in the turret there. So rather than, I want to be sure that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So we've got another Project8, obviously my one.
Yeah.
That drives differently, so let's confirm it rather than just go and spend, £6,000 on components and sort of, we're fairly sure we're right, but we want to know we're right, so we're going to swap them over.
I very much want you right, because this is the second set of dampers this car has had.
But this is a very early car.
Yeah, it's number one.
Number one, yeah.
Yeah, but that was all to do with the rattling that you got at the top. But
service message or a technical bulletin, one of the two, about the rattling around this area here, and there was an issue with the spot welds up there,
right?
And there is a bit of paperwork out there with a fix for that. So it may well have been as they've undone this and done it back up. It's
they've
twisted.
Got a better tool. Yeah, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, but it would appear they're solid, more solid than certainly the ones on mine.
Right, and the plan is to take the dampers off your Project8, pop them on here,
and do a back-to-back test.
And then you're going off to do your speed bump test.
Go and do the speed bump test, and if this has changed, which I suspect it will, then you're going to have to make a decision.
God. Oh, no. I've got this warranty on the car, but it doesn't quite cover the cost of this because I went for the slightly cheaper warranty.
You've got what they call a select warranty, which only pays up to £3,000 per claim.
I thought it was 5.
No, it's 3.
3.
Yeah, £3 per claim. It's not a full extended warranty, so they will pay for one damper. Yeah.
Can I do them one at a time?
Well, I suppose we could.
Buy one damper. Oh, it hasn't fixed it.
Maybe we'll have a word with Jag, see if they've got a buy one, get one free special offer coming up. You never know.
Yeah, right.
So,
while they're just taking those off there, could we get a torch and just see some of the other stuff you've done on this?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing that we found, and most of the issues we found were up here.
Right.
So we found that the drive belt was all frayed.
I don't like that.
Which was a bit concerning. But when we changed the drive belt, we did check all the pulleys and we can't find any loose pulleys. But I think where the drive belt was fraying and was whipping, it had broken this pipe coming out of this vacuum pump. Now, this vacuum pump doesn't do the brakes, it's to do with emissions-related stuff, but I'm actually surprised it didn't put an engine management light on. Yeah. But we also had a slight oil leak from here anyway, so we ended up having to replace this vacuum pump, so that sorted that out. We couldn't find anything else wrong with the belts other than the fact the belt was frayed, so that's done. And then on the four-wheel drive system, we had a leak coming out here.
Right.
Where the tube goes, so your differential's actually here on the front.
Okay,
over this side,
yeah.
And there's a tube that goes through the engine. You can still see some remnants of oil here. We haven't quite finished cleaning up. The tube goes through the sump and then there's a seal up in here, and that was leaking. So we had to take all of the drive shaft out and stuff like that. Normally we would just take the drive shaft out, but in your case, we went to go and take the brake disc off, and the brake disc is corroded on the centre to the hub.
Here.
Yeah. So normally on a steel disc, we just get a soft mallet and tap them off. But with a carbon, I wasn't so confident to do that. So
and you told me the price of the disc on this.
It's £5.5 grand plus VAT, £6 grand plus VAT each.
Yeah, £5.5 grand.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So what we did is we ended up taking the whole front strut assembly out.
Right.
But it meant we didn't have to hit the disc or do any potential damage to the disc. But so now when we've finished all of this process, we have to do an alignment setup as well, because it's all been the part. I'll do a geometry on it.
The other thing, pads, isn't it?
Pads, yeah. We've done your rear brake pads. They're done.
And we've also had new rear as well.
Yeah, the rears were.
Oh, they're shot as well.
Yeah, the rears were shot, and the fronts. They don't look too bad here, but on the inside they're a lot lower. So we've got a new set of front pads coming, hopefully in the next couple of days, because we had to order them in.
And they're not cheap either, are they?
They were. I've been through this pain myself. Don't worry. £1,077 plus VAT for a set of front pads, and the rears were 780 odd plus VAT.
So £2 grand for the pads.
Correct. Yeah, with the VAT. Yeah, just for the brake pads. Yeah. So.
There we are. 6 years old, lots of tracks.
So I've already done a set of rear pads on my car. My car's already done.
You're at 6,000.
6,000, something like that, yeah. And so I've already gone for a set of rear pads, but I have taken it on track a couple of times.
Yeah.
So.
And this has been on track.
Yeah.
I confess. Bloody hell. Right. Yeah. Now, was that a warranty job? The diff. Seal.
The diff seal, because you have a select warranty, sir, it does not cover seals.
They just wriggle out of stuff.
Honestly, you really do need to read the small print before you. So a select warranty, in my mind, is only good for I don't know, if a diff goes or something like that. It's really and even if your engine goes, which is unlikely, or a gearbox or a major component goes wrong, it's only going to give you £3 grand anyway.
I've ticked the wrong box, haven't I?
Yeah.
I think I've got a warranty, and that's that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and we do, unfortunately, have to have this conversation with people on a regular basis. And then you think, well, is the belt wear and tear? But you've been on track a couple of times, but then does that then cover the vacuum pump, because that's kind of damage?
Oh, they wouldn't do the vacuum pump because
no, because it doesn't. The warranty doesn't cover belts.
Right.
Okay, and it's the belt that's potentially damaged the vacuum pump.
That's caused the vacuum pump.
Yeah, so if I found something wrong with a pulley which caused the belt to fray, so another mechanical issue, then the warranty would have kicked in. Yeah, but we couldn't find anything wrong. So, nothing firm anyway. So.
Yeah, no, not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's there's a warranty is an insurance policy.
Yeah, but you have an option to tick different boxes. That's my silliness.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like 1,400 quid or 1,000 quid. I mean, it wasn't that much different. But
it's the worst £400 you ever saved yourself.
I'm afraid it is.
Yeah. So
But these are the same dampers, I understand, as GT3 RS.
Okay.
Bilstein aluminium but damper, so lightweight.
Yeah.
Motorsport damper.
Okay. Yeah. How much does a GT3 RS weigh?
It weighs not as much as this. They're about 1,500.
Okay. It's more than I thought. I thought you were going to say
they're 300 kilos lighter than this.
Yeah. Okay. So we're asking a bit more out of it, aren't we?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no leaks and something.
No. But this is just a top mount. This is not.
But dampers, if they go off, tend to get softer, not harder.
No, I've had dampers lock up.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Well, there's all valving and shims in there. What if there's, one of the valves has collapsed, and I know you were sitting there earlier and we were going like this.
Yeah.
Pushing it up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean to say that they're. You'll never.
There's no difference.
Yeah, I know, but you'll never. You need to go on a dyno. You need to go on a damper dyno to notice the difference in it. And obviously what we've got to remember is what's happening with us is we're going down fast and and. If I do this physically myself, I get no movement.
You can't do it. No.
It needs to go on a dyno to be tested properly.
Yeah. Right, quickly, plan of action is I'm going out with Tom in there. Tom's dampers are on there, and we're just going to see if this really is the issue. I'm going to swap to the GoPro when we get in the car, and I'll talk on that. So the sound might go a bit wobbly. bump coming up.
Yeah, we've got another one coming up here. So I don't know why I notice it when I do it on the way up, but I just do.
Yeah, probably going a bit quicker on, but there is. It just absorbs. That's nothing.
Yeah, you can feel it.
The other one was a bang.
The other one, it was just rock solid bang.
That is infuriating.
Yeah, there's a noticeable change there.
There is. What do we do now then, Tom? Well, I've got to save up for.
It's noticeably different, isn't it? It's I can't get away from the fact that that is more compliant. Definitely.
And I was looking up, and the recall on the dampers.
Yep.
So this is my second set of dampers all round on this, and that was November 2020.
Yep.
So these have only done about 8,000 miles. Standard warranty is 3 years, isn't it?
Standard warranty is 3 years, 60,000 miles, 100,000 miles on a Jag.
What do we say if it's only done that many miles, always been serviced? Is there anything at all?
Well, the thing is, a damper is a non-serviceable item.
Right.
I will actually be very interested to know if we go down the road of buying some dampers, we're going to have 2 old units, aren't we?
Well, whether we go to Bilstein's to rebuild
I'm
them.
tempted to go to Bilstein and say, look, because it's such a special, rare thing and an expensive damper, can we service it?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I think we make that call first.
Yeah.
Because £6,000 and, you know...
If they turn around to us and say, I can literally make up a steel bar and put it in there so the car's not going to collapse on the floor, we can send them off.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth exploring before we delve in. But don't forget, your select warranty will pay for one damper.
Yes.
So, you know, it's not...
So I'm 3,000. I do get one.
Yeah, you do get one. But if we go down the servicing route, they won't do that.
No.
They'll only do it if you buy new parts via...
And service would be 400, 500 a quarter.
We don't. I mean, look, I can get the dampers that we have on our race cars. We service them because I know we can take them all apart, and it normally costs me. On my car's got 6 dampers on it, and that'll cost me £1,000, 1,200 quid to have all 6 done.
Okay, let's do that. Right, Tom. Thanks for your time.
No
thanks
problem,
for having a Project8 that's now abandoned on the lift with no suspension. But
that's all right. I've got this all marked up. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's been very useful, and I just don't understand it. There we are. Anyway,
happen.
To be continued.
Yes.
Well, I'm back in the Project8, which is great news. I have to thank Tom Lempford for doing the work on it and going to the extra effort of swapping dampers and investigating why this seems to ride stiffer than his Project8. And I came away from there sort of confused. I'm thinking, well, what do I do? And I thought, what I really need to do is get these dampers tested. And how do I do that? Well, down the road from me is Nitron Dampers. And I phoned a friend who works there, and Curtis Woodman, and I said, could you put them on your dyno and tell me if these dampers are okay? Because I wondered if one was broken and one was okay. Just couldn't work it out why it was that different to my car and Tom's Project8. And that's what I did. He took them in and he gave me a call. And I went down there to see what he'd discovered. Now, I should say, the video I'm about to show has a sort of flickering in it, something with the light. I didn't realise until I did the edit. I'm not clever enough to know how to get rid of it, but I thought it was useful info. And basically, he put them on the dyno, and being sort of the shockers that they're adjustable, they put a voltage or ampage into them, and they can see if they're working correctly. So, right, I'm going to drop that video in now.
So importantly, they're both working to their extremities. So you can see here that when we put a different current in there, whether it be 300, 500, 700 milliamps, they are changing. What I was expecting to see, because you said they felt very stiff, was we were changing the current, but nothing was changing in the shop.
It was changed, but there is more gap here than this one. Though.
There is, yeah. So this is rebound and this is compression, and this is the setting at different current levels. So there is a bit of a discrepancy. We'd normally see that over time, but it's not enough for me to say this is kaput. The main thing is they're both operating, they're both working. What I was expecting to see was no change at all. And it was stuck in full stiff mode.
Right.
But actually it's not. So the car will be demanding a current. So the car will be saying, give me 1600 milliamps into the shock. And there you go, that's 1600 milliamps. And then when you press on or you roll or you change direction, it will change the damping force and say up to, you know, maybe 800 milliamps. And this is what we're seeing here. This is the change in damping on compression and rebound.
Yeah.
So they are working.
Right.
They're just simply too stiff force. Yeah, so this is your 0 point.
Yeah.
This is speed along the bottom, velocity along the bottom.
Yeah.
In millimeters a second, 20, 40, 60, 80. The normal driving, you'd be looking at up to about 50 millimeters a second is what you'll feel on low speed damping. Yeah. Right. Then if you hit a curb or something like that, that will be, you know, in this area here. So a curb strike is higher up the speed. There. And your normal driving around town, you know. So
that's the critical bit, is down there.
That's what you feel.
Curtis, thank you ever so much for doing that. It's really kind.
So that was the info. Basically, the dampers are fine. They're doing what they should, and if you change the input, then they adjust and go stiffer or softer. Which is how this system works. I've got it down here. I'm actually in so-called comfort at the moment. It is not comfort, but I flick the other way, it's dynamic, and then I've got track. And I can feel the difference, actually. There is a difference to it, but it's still at a level that's stiffer than Tom's. So where do we go from here? Well, the next thing we're going to do, Tom Lenthal is intrigued as well, so he's going to whip the dampers off his Project 8 and I'm going to take them up to Nitron, and Curtis is going to do the same test and we can see if they match. I can't believe they do, but anyway, that's what we're going to do. The other issue is I took the car away from Tom's because our schedules didn't allow it. He couldn't get the dampers off. I've got all sorts of things happening, as you've found out. I'm off to Germany, Switzerland, all sorts of things, Italy. So we'll come back to this in a few weeks. But the blessed pads, front pads, never came in. We waited a month for them, so I just said I'll get the car back and we'll revisit it. I've got pads. I just can't really do a track day in the car, but I'm not doing one until June at the moment, so they should be in by then, and we should have tested the dampers as well. So I'm afraid this video is still to be continued, and you'll rejoin us when I get Tom's dampers back from Nitron, and their dyno will tell me if my dampers are absolutely normal and I'm just imagining it all, or there's something different between my dampers and Tom's. So there you go, that's the end of this video. I should say, yeah, it's £3,000 in already just doing the work we've done on this car. So that's that vacuum pump at the front, the rear brake pads, that sort of thing. Yeah, I've learnt a lot about warranties over the last few weeks. I'm frustrated that I had an unlimited warranty until this year because I just ticked the wrong box. And I've done the story with Lawrence Whitaker up at Warranty Wise. His warranty would have covered the issues on the front. It's a lesson learnt, but there we go. Do check the small print on your warranties. Anyway, more of that later. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming on very soon.